What is up, everybody? Welcome to DFS by the Numbers. This is my full card breakdown and prediction video for UFC Austin. We got Arman Tsarukyan going against Beneil Dariush.
I need all the wins, yeah. All that and all that is. You better move, you might get knocked out. Knocked out. You better move, you might get knocked out. Knocked out. You better move, you might get knocked out. Knocked out.
And we are back after a week off. We're going to be talking some UFC Austin. It's a 13-fight card. It's a pretty good card. It's a card that has had a couple changes over the last week or so, but it's a card that I'm definitely looking forward to from a fan perspective, and from a betting perspective, there are some spots sticking out as well. So yeah, looking forward to getting right back into it. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the week off, enjoyed the Thanksgiving. I know I did. It was a great to kind of hang out with family, watch some football all day. It was a good time there. But yeah, right back into it here. Going to try to end the year strong. We have 3 cards left. We have this card, which is solid. Next card is a complete dumpster fire. And then we have UFC 296, which is going to be a great card to end the year. And yeah, we got to end it strong. Had a really good night 2 weeks ago. Went up about 5.9 units. Being my 5th best night of the year, I believe, thanks to one Peyton Talbot. Shout out to Peyton Talbot, cashing a nice 3rd-round prop for probably a lot of people. I mean, I think the majority of people knew that Peyton Talbot was going to finish Nick Aguirre in the 3rd round, and he did just that. So shout out to Peyton Talbot. That was a big part of the night, cashing the 3rd-round prop, and the fight doesn't go to decision. But yeah, looking forward to UFC Austin here. Looking forward to breaking it down. Before we get into it, if you guys could please do me a favor, leave a like on the video. Subscribe to the channel if you have not already. That is always much appreciated. This video is brought to you by Prize Picks. I will be getting out a Prize Picks video later in the week. If you guys are new to Prize Picks and want to check it out, go to prizepicks.com, use promo code DFSBTN, and get yourself a 100% deposit match up to $100. It helps me. It helps you. It's free money. Go check it out. And then also check out DFSbythenumbers.com. We have 3 cards left in December. Yeah, check it out. I put a lot of content that you do not see on YouTube on DFSbythenumbers.com. You get the stats that you see on Fridays, Saturdays, early access to all my bets, multiple articles throughout the week, including my best bet article where I break down the entire card. I actually did that all on Monday, really ahead this week, so broke down all those fights. Just need the odds to kind of plug them in. But yeah, the article's about done. I give my best bet, the confidence ratings, and then the prediction for each and every fight. And then it's the best way to support me 100%. So go check that out. DFSbythenumbers.com. And with all that out of the way, I say we get right into it, and we're going to start with the first fight of the card. This bout order has already changed up a little bit throughout the last week and a half. We'll see if they change up any more, but right now we have Jamie Lynn Horth going against Veronica Hardy. We got Jamie Lynn Horth. She's 33 years old, 5'7" with a 67-inch reach, 6-0 and 5-0 in her last 5 fights. Veronica Hardy, 28 years old, 5'4", with a 64-inch reach, 7-4, and 2-3 in her last 5 fights. We'll take a look at the odds. We've had a lot of time for these, lines to marinate. We have Jamie Lynn Horth opening up -175. She's currently -115. Veronica Hardy opened up +150, currently -105. So lots of monies came in on Veronica Hardy here, and this is one of those spots that. And we see these spots quite often. Quite often we see these spots. I think it's a big recency bias spot here, and here's why. Veronica Hardy, prior to beating Juliana Not a Killer Miller, was 1-4, I believe, in the UFC. Just very lackluster performances. Her one win did come against, I believe, her one win came against Polyana Viana via first-round armbar in about a minute, right? Other than that, she lost to Bay Malecki, which it's terrible loss. It was a terrible fight. Not a good loss there. Lost to Jillian Robertson by sub, Andrea Lee, and then Ashley Evans Smith, right? So 1-4 in the last 5 fights. People were really low on her. She took a massive layoff. It was like a 3-year layoff, right? She comes back against Juliana Miller, Not a Killer Miller, and she was like a big underdog. She was like +300, like +350, like a massive underdog against Juliana Not a Killer Miller. And she went out there and, quite frankly, dominated, Miller. It really wasn't close. It was a unanimous decision. Hardy was able to take her down, and I think we're really overrating Hardy, with that performance. I really do. I don't think Miller is that great. I don't really see her lasting too much longer in the UFC. So, yeah, she was able to take down Juliana Miller, but she has a 0% takedown defense, Miller. 0%, Whereas Jamie Lynn Horth, she made her debut up a weight class against Haley Cohen at bantamweight. Haley Cohen misses weight even, And now Jamie Lynn Horth is coming back down to her natural weight class at flyweight, and she's going to be big. She's going to have a 3-inch height advantage, a 3-inch reach advantage, and most importantly, the strength advantage as well. So I kind of feel like Jamie Lynn Horth is going to be able to dictate where this fight takes place. I feel like she's going to easily be the better striker here, and I feel like she can either stuff takedowns or maybe get takedowns herself. So I like Jamie Lynn Horth here to win this fight by decision. And it's just weird to me how Hardy went from a plus 350 underdog to Juliana Miller, who I don't think is that great, to now a pick'em against Jamie Lynn Horth, who I actually think she's good. She's pretty good. So give me Jamie Lynn Horth here to win this fight and win it by decision. Next, we got Wellington Turman going against Jared Gooden. We got Turman, 27 years old, 6 foot with a 72-inch reach, 18-7, and 2-3 in his last 5 fights. Jared Gooden, let me fix that. Jared Gooden, my bad. He's 29 years old, 6 foot with a 77-inch reach, 22-9, and 3-2 in his last 5 fights. And fun fact here, I was doing the graphics. I do them like a week or two before the card. I actually did put Jared Gordon there. I put his picture up in anything, and I'm so glad I caught that. But yeah, so Jared Gooden, he's 29 years old, 6 foot, 77-inch reach, 22-9, and 3-2 in his last 5 fights. We'll take a look at the odds. We see that Turman opened up minus 145, currently minus 185. Gooden opened up plus 125. He's currently plus 160. So this is a fight where it's like I'm not high on either of these guys. I'm really not. But one guy is minus 185 and one guy's a big plus 160 dog. And I kind of lean the dog side there just because I don't feel like Wellington Turman should really be this big of a favorite against anybody. Like on the feet, although I think Jared Gooden's very hittable. I favor the striking of Gooden. I favor the power of Gooden. And then on top of that, Turman's probably going to try to get this fight down to the mat. That's his base. He's a BJJ black belt, but Turman doesn't have the best wrestling, and Gooden's takedown defense is solid. So I kind of feel like Gooden's very, very live in this fight. Like I said, I don't think Gooden's that great. I think, he's one of these guys that the MMA community as a whole, really overrates, but I think it's a winnable matchup for him. So, I'm going to take Gooden here. I don't feel amazing about it, but I also wouldn't feel amazing about laying minus 185 on Wellington Turman. It just doesn't make a ton of sense to me. So I feel like this fight's going to be close. I feel like the striking exchanges are going to be close, but, Gooden has the power. And then I feel like if Gooden can stuff these takedowns, which I kind of lean towards him doing, because Turman is completing takedowns at like a 19% accuracy. So I'm going to take Gooden here. Not a fight that I think I'm going to, bet on, but if I was to bet it, it's a dog or pass, 100%. So give me Gooden. Give me Gooden to win this fight by decision. Not a big fan of this fight. Next, we got Rodolfo Bellato going against Ihor Peteria. We got Bellato, 27 years old, 6'3", with a 77.5-inch reach, 11-2 and 4-1 in his last 5 fights. Ihor Peteria is 27 years old, 6'3", with a 75-inch reach, 20-4. And 3-2 in his last 5 fights. We'll take a look at the odds. We have, I believe, the biggest favorite on the card in Bellato. He opened up minus 300. He's currently minus 450. Ihor Peteria opened up plus 250. He's currently plus 350. So Bellato pulled off a decent-sized upset on the Contender Series against a guy that I was pretty high on. A lot of people were pretty high on. And he looked good in that fight. That was his second appearance on the Contender Series. The first time he was on the Contender Series, he got knocked out by Vitor Petrino, and both of his losses come against Vitor Petrino, which there's absolutely no shame in that. Vitor Petrino would finish Peteria in 60 seconds. So, yeah, I don't hold those losses against him. But outside of those Petrino fights, Bellato's looking good. I mean, Bellato is well-rounded. On the feet, I think his striking solid. He has really, really good leg kicks. And I think what I was most impressed with is, either the ground game, which is really good. He's a black belt in BJJ. He can wrestle. He has great control, great ground and pound submissions. But in the clinch, against the cage, he's very, very good, very dangerous. He's relentless. On the Contender Series, we pushed that dude against the cage and was landing knees and elbows. And, that dude was very, very tough. That Taha guy. He was very, very tough. He was eating a bunch of knees and elbows up until he got broke. Bellato broke this guy in the second round. It was a great, great performance there. Ihor Peteria, I think this is a step down for Bellato, if I'm being honest. Going from, that Taha guy, who, like I said, I'm pretty high on, and a lot of people were, to Ihor Potieria, who I've never been sold on. 20-4 record, like that record looks great, but I think it's extremely padded. I think he has about 5 minutes of cardio. I think, if he wins this fight, it's probably a knockout. He probably knocks out Bellato, but, Bellato's just going to have the advantage in every single aspect of MMA. It's really hard to pick Potieria here. Bellato against the cage is going to have a ton of success here. Bellato on the mat is going to have so much success. If he takes down Potieria, the fight's over probably shortly after. The one thing Bellato's got to watch out for, just kind of staying at range with this guy. I mean, that would be the one thing you got to worry about with Bellato. The chin has been a concern in the past, but it was against Vitor Petrino. So, yeah, this should be Bellato. This should be Bellato all day. I think they're setting up Bellato here to go out there and get a win, and I think the Ihor Potieria experiment is about over. I'm just not sure this guy's UFC caliber. Pretty looking record, but if you dig into it a little bit more, I think it's a little bit inflated. So give me Bellato to win this fight. I'll say he breaks Potieria down, pushes him against the cage, lands knees, elbows, eventually drags him down to the mat, and finishes him in the late second round. So give me Bellato to win this fight. I'll say second round sub. Moving on, we have potential fight of the night here, and it's really low on the card, which is interesting, but we got Mel Costa going against Steve Garcia. We got Mel Costa. He's 31 years old, 6 foot with a 73-inch reach, 14-5, and 3-2 in his last 5 fights. Steve Garcia, 27 years old, 5'10", with a 73-inch reach, 20-6, and 3-2 in his last 5 fights. We'll take a look at the odds. We have Costa opening up -110, currently -225. Garcia opening up -110, currently +190. I think this fight's going to be a banger. Both these guys want to do one thing and one thing only, and that's going to be stand and bang, especially Steve Garcia. For better or for worse, Steve Garcia is going out there and having an exciting fight. He's going to war in every single fight. You will never see a boring Steve Garcia fight outside of the time he made his debut. I think it was on short notice, up a weight class, and he fought non-violent Bob Ross, Luis Pena, and Pena controlled him for 14 minutes. But outside of that fight, which was terrible, outside of that fight, Steve Garcia is in bangers. That Charlie Ontiveros fight, Charlie Ontiveros landed a couple axe kicks, knocked down Garcia a couple times, right? And then Garcia broke Ontiveros in the second round. Against Mahashate, this guy just stood and banged for about a minute up until getting caught by Mahashate. Against Chase Hooper, beat the brakes off of Chase Hooper. I felt bad for Chase Hooper. That was a brutal beatdown. And then against Shalian, this guy got dropped early on. He started to put it on Shalian and then got him out of there in that second round. So yeah, Steve Garcia's fights are awesome, and you can say the same thing about Mel Costa. I went back and watched Costa's fight against Austin Lingo, and I was very impressed with the striking. This guy has a lot of tools on the feet. He has very hard kicks to the body especially, and I'm not sure what Austin Lingo's made out of, because he ate like flush kicks to the body, to the head. Austin Lingo is as tough as they come. And I can't really say the same thing about Garcia. Garcia's tough, but my gosh, he gets dropped like it's his job. Steve Garcia's been dropped 5 times in 5 fights. And a lot of his fights are not even reaching the second or third round, right? So this guy's getting dropped a lot. Nerdenbeke dropped him. Mahashate dropped him twice and knocked him out. Charlie Ontiveros dropped him twice. I actually thought it was 3 times potential. He got dropped like 3 times against Charlie Ontiveros. It was a very bad look. The only fights he did not get dropped in was against Chase Hooper, self-explanatory, and then Luis Pena, again, where Pena controlled him for 14 minutes. So I don't think Garcia has the best chin, and not having the best chin, the best durability, seems like a recipe for disaster against Mel Costa. So I kind of see this being a one-round banger. I think these guys are going to stand and bang until one man falls, and I trust the durability of Costa more. I trust the variety of strikes from Costa more, and I think he lands something big. I think Garcia is going to get hurt, and I'm not sure he recovers. I'm kind of actually leaning maybe like a club and sub. Like Costa does have, I think, like 6 submissions on his record, like 6 of them, maybe 7. So I'm kind of leaning like maybe a club and sub situation here for Costa, but I think it comes early. I think a first round finish here for Costa in a 1-round banger. This fight's going to be awesome, I think. So give me Costa. I'll say first round sub. Moving on, we have a close fight, no pun intended. We got Drakkar Close going against Joe Selecki. We got Close. He's 30 years old, 5'9", with a 70-inch reach, 13-2-1 and 4-1 in his last 5 fights. Joe Selecki, 35 years old, 5'9", with a 70.5-inch reach, 13-3 and 4-1 in his last 5 fights. We'll take a look at the odds, and we have Drakkar Close opening up plus 150, currently minus 130. We got Joe Selecki opening up minus 175, currently plus 110. So this line has flipped. And first look, I'm like, man, I kind of really like Clos here, right? Like, Clos is going to be a guy who's going to have a gigantic striking advantage. I don't think the striking is close whatsoever. This is going to be probably one of the toughest, if not the toughest striker that Joe Selecki's fought. I'm going through Joe Selecki's career in the UFC. He's fighting all grapplers. Alex De Silva, grappler. Jim Miller, grappler. Austin Hubbard, grappler. Matt Wyman, grappler. The best striker he's probably fought would be Jared Gordon, and then Carl Deaton. I'm not even sure what Carl Deaton is. I guess Deaton's a striker, I guess. But yeah, I mean, this is going to probably be the best striker that Joe Selecki has fought thus far. So yeah, I mean, I don't think the striking's that close. And then Jakar Clos has I believe a wrestling background, solid takedown defense. Jakar Clos, I think, is a BJJ black belt as well. So yeah, I think on paper, seems like a really winnable matchup for Jakar Clos. And then, the more I looked into it, the more I kind of worry here for Clos, because Joe Selecki, he can wrestle. And when he does get takedowns, or he can take the back standing, like if he gets to your back, you're kind of staying there. So it's a situation where I think for Jakar Clos to win this fight, he can't get taken down. He can't get his back taken, because if he gets his back taken, I mean, that's probably the round, and that's kind of frustrating. Like if Jakar Clos is winning the striking exchanges on the feet, which I think he will, and Joe Selecki is able to take him down, like I think that could potentially be the round. So I kind of see this fight playing out very, very close, very, very competitively. And I think it's going to be one of those split decision type fights where it's damage versus control, right? Like Jakar Clos is piecing up Joe Selecki. Joe Selecki lands a takedown and controls him the rest of the round, doesn't do much damage. Who the judge is going to score for, I'm not sure. The judges are horrible. I don't know. But it's a fight I'm just going to stay away from. I'm going to pick Jakar Clos here to win this fight, but it's not a fight that I really want to put any money on. But give me Jakar Clos to win this fight, but I think a very close, even maybe a split decision here. All right, next we got Zachary Reese going against Cody Brundage. Really fun fight here. We got Zachary Reese, 29 years old, 6'4", with a 77-inch reach, 6-0, 5-0 in his last 5 fights. Cody Brundage, 29 years old, 6 foot with a 72-inch reach, 9-5 and 2-3 in his last 5 fights. Take a look at the odds here. We have Zach Reese opening up, believe it or not, plus 135 as a dog. The line completely flipped, and it got to like minus 300 something for Reese. He's currently down to minus 260 now. Cody Brundage opened up minus 155, and he's currently sitting as a plus 220 underdog. So this fight kind of confuses me, but at the same time, I think this fight's going to finish, and I think it's going to finish pretty early. But yeah, I mean, Zachary Reese, we just don't know anything about him. We know nothing about this guy. This guy has 6 professional fights against nobody. I mean, if he beats Cody Brundage, it's going to be his best win by a mile. So the level of competition is a concern. And then for Zachary Reese, we've never seen him outside the first round ever. Like, if this fight reaches the second round, what is Zachary Reese going to look like? I'm not sure. So there's some question marks. But from what we see, I mean, he's good. He's dangerous. He's 6'4". 6'4". He's going to have a 4-inch height advantage, a 5-inch reach advantage. He's dangerous wherever the fight goes. On the feet, he has power. He's long. He's rangy. And then he has a good submission game. Good, slick submission game. So he's dangerous. Cody Brundage is one of these guys who I cashed probably the dirtiest bet of my life in Brundage's last fight. I had Cody Brundage to win in round 1, no method, just round 1 plus 1,700, and he hit it by DQ, right? So I'm happy about that. But Cody Brundage's last performance was not good. His last couple performances. Cody Brundage, I'm kind of worried about where his head's at. I'm worried about the confidence of Cody Brundage, because he doesn't look confident in there. And that SD Dumas fight was the worst performance I think I've ever seen, and I've seen some bad performances in there. That William Knight performance comes to mind. When William Knight fought Marcin Prachnio, landed like 10 strikes. I think, Brundage's performance against SD Dumas was probably worse than that. I mean, it was a terrible performance. Believe it or not, Cody Brundage landed 3 significant strikes. 3. He landed 1 in round 1. He landed 0 significant strikes in round 2. And then he landed 2 significant strikes in round 3. Cody Brundage jumped more guillotines than he landed strike. I mean, it's ridiculous. So, yeah, I mean, Cody Brundage, he hasn't looked that great as of late, but he's one of these guys. It kind of reminds me of like a Jordan Wright. He's an incredible hammer and then an incredibly bad nail. He has some good wins. I mean, the Dolce win was a good win, that guillotine choke. You know, the Tresean Gore knockout, a lot of people weren't expecting that. And he's having success in some of these losses, like the Rodolfo Vieira loss. He dropped Vieira, almost got him out of there. Against Mikhail Olszewski, looked good early, took him down 3 times. But, you know, once there's like any adversity whatsoever, he seems to kind of fold, kind of take his ball and go home. So I don't know what to do here. I mean, it's hard to trust Zachary Reese as this big of a favorite, but it's really hard to pick Cody Brundage at this point. So I'm going to pick Zachary Reese here. I think he's going to find a finish. I don't know if it's a knockout. I don't know if it's a sub. Could be either or. I'm kind of leaning submission for Zachary Reese here, and I think it's probably going to be in the first round. I think we get another first round banger here. I think these guys are going to get after it, and I think Brundage might make a mistake here. I think he might make a mistake, and I think Zachary Reese might make him pay for that mistake. So Reese is going to be bigger. He's going to be dangerous everywhere. I'm going to say Zachary Reese wins this fight by first round submission. Moving on, we got the 1-800-GAMBLER fight of the week, the fight that nobody should be betting on. We got Julia Avila going against Misha Tate. We got Avila, she's 35 years old, 5'7" with a 69-inch reach, 9-2 and 4-1 in her last 5 fights. Misha Tate, 37 years old, 5'6" with a 66.5-inch reach, 19-9 and 1-4 in her last 5 fights. We'll take a look at the odds here, although nobody should be betting on this fight. We have Misha Tate opening up plus 210, currently plus 140. Julia Avila opened up minus 250, currently minus 160. So Avila has had a decent size layoff here. Julia Avila, we have not seen her in the cage in 2 years, in 4 months. Last fought Julia Stolyarenko. I think she had a baby, so she took some time off. So she's coming back after having a baby and about a 2.5 year layoff, right? So it's one of those fights where I feel like nobody should be favored here. Like, I feel like this fight's probably going to go the distance. It's going to be very close. The judges are going to screw it up. But what I do notice is, though, I think Tate, although looked awful in her last fight, looked just completely awful. I mean, you know, I'm not the biggest fan of Lauren Murphy. I know some people like Lauren Murphy. I'm not one of those people. I think that loss is terrible. But when I'm looking at this fight, I think she kind of has a path here. And that path is going to be to wrestle. Because, you know, she lost to Ketlen Vieira. Taking down Ketlen Vieira is very hard to do. Ketlen Vieira has some of the best takedown defense in the division. Lauren Murphy, you know, her takedown defense is good. Julia Avila, her takedown defense I don't think is that great. And what I think is even worse is her get-up game. You know, when Avila gets taken down, she kind of stays there. You know, I remember that Eubanks fight a couple of years ago. Eubanks took her down, and that was the round. Eubanks controlled her for well over 10 minutes of that fight. And I kind of think, like, Tate's a fighter who she's going to fight to a game plan. She's going to come out there. She's going to be aggressive. She's going to push her opponent against the cage. She's going to try to take her down. And if she does take down Avila, you know, in theory, she should be able to hold her down there. But I can't trust Misha Tate. At the same time, I can't trust Julia Avila, you know, whatsoever. This big of a layoff and coming off of that pregnancy, I can't. So it's a 1-800-GAMBLER fight. I'm going to take the dog here in Misha Tate with little to no confidence. And if anybody bets this fight, you probably need some help. I mean, it's ridiculous. But give me Misha Tate to win this fight. I'll take her to win it by split decision. Moving on, yeah, looking forward to this one. We got Joaquim Silva going against Clay Guida. We got Joaquim Silva, 34 years old, 5'8" with a 69-inch reach, 12-4 and 2-3 in his last 5 fights. Clay Guida, 41 years old, 5'7", with a 70-inch reach, 38-23 and 2-3 in his last 5 fights. So we have Silva. He opened up as a minus 225 favorite. He is currently sitting at minus 320. And then we got Clay Guida opening up a plus 190 underdog. He's currently plus 270. So yeah, this was the first fight I looked into, because I remember looking at the lines about a week ago, and I saw Joaquim Silva at minus 182, and I'm like, hey, I really like Silva at minus 182. I'm going to look into this fight. And by the time I looked into it, I checked the line, and Silva's like minus 320. Like, so somebody put a massive bet on Joaquim Silva. I mean, the line moved more than $1 in probably less than a span of a couple hours. I mean, it was ridiculous. But yeah, I think the line movement's warranted. I think Joaquim Silva should be a pretty big favorite here. I just think that, Clay Guida, he's kind of getting towards the end of the road here. He's 42 years old, coming up next month in December. I think mid-December is his 42nd birthday. This guy has well over 60 fights. A lot of tread on the tires, a lot of damage taken. He hasn't looked the same for a while now. He still has, some wins, as of late. There was that comeback from behind win against Leonardo Santos where Santos beat the crap out of him for about 4.5 minutes. Keith Peterson refused to stop the fight. I'm not sure what Keith Peterson was doing there. Probably drunk and maybe going to get some cigarettes at the gas station. But yeah, Clay Guida ate like a 50 punch combination with like elbows mixed in. Like that fight could have been stopped. I'm not sure what Keith Peterson was doing there. And then his other win the last couple of years was against Scott Holtzman, another guy that was like 40-something years old. And then, of course, Michael Johnson as well. And then he had that BJ Penn win back in 2019. But yeah, in the last 5 years, those are his wins. And then he has a lot of losses. Mark Madsen, not a good loss. Claudio Poyas, in my opinion, not a good loss. Bobby Green, Jim Miller. And then he lost to Rafa Garcia his last time out. And I don't think it's a bad loss. I'm kind of confused about what the game plan was with Guida in that fight. Because Clay Guida went out there and kind of stood at range with Rafa Garcia and got pieced up for about 3 rounds. Didn't really attempt many takedowns. So, I don't know. That was just a bad look to me. And then now he's coming in here, a couple months later, taking on Joaquim Silva, who I just think is a tough matchup stylistically. Joaquim Silva, the nickname Neto BJJ. What's interesting about that is he has 0 submissions. So, now would be the time, Neto BJJ, to get your first UFC sub because you're taking on Clay Guida, who has 11 submission losses. Clay Guida makes a lot of mistakes on the mat. And Silva's a guy that could potentially capitalize on that. So not only does Silva have that BJJ in his back pocket, but Silva has a ton of power on the feet. This guy's knocking guys out in the UFC. Knocked out Jesse Ronson, knocked out Jared Gordon, knocked out Andrew Holbrook. And then he also, as a big dog, came in there on short notice against Arman Tsarukyan. Almost had Arman Tsarukyan out of there in the second round. Very close. So, yeah, Silva has a ton of power. So I think on the feet, Clay Guida's got to be worried about that. And then Silva has that BJJ black belt. I'm kind of leaning towards Silva getting potentially his first sub here. And I think it is potentially a club and sub. We've seen it a lot with Clay Guida. He gets hit with a big shot, shoots a sloppy takedown, and gets his neck snatched up. And that's kind of how I'm seeing it play out. So I'm going to take Silva to win this fight. Silva to win this fight by second round sub. Moving on, we got Punahele Sorano going against Dustin Stults. We got Sorano, 31 years old, 5'11", with a 72.5-inch reach, 9-3, and 2-3 in his last 5 fights. Dustin Stults, he's 32 years old, 6 foot, with a 75-inch reach, 14-5, and 1-4 in his last 5 fights. We'll take a look at the odds. We have Punahele Sorano opening up minus 325, currently minus 250. Dustin Stults opening up plus 275, currently plus 210. And yeah, I think it's a good matchup for Punahele Sorano. But I guess I do have some concern. My concerns with Sorano is obviously the cardio. When this guy does get extended, he does slow down. He has a handful of knockouts in his career. I think he has, 8 knockouts? 8 knockouts. 7 of those 8 knockouts coming in the first round. The one that was not in the first round was 20 seconds into the second round against Dolce Longambola. So yeah, when he's knocking guys out, it's early. And if the fight does get extended, he's not really knocking you out. He's not really having a lot of success. He's losing a lot of fights that do get extended. So, and I think the one decision win was against Jamie Pickett as well, which, quite frankly, shouldn't count. But yeah, this is a fight where Sorano has that wrestling background. In theory, he should be able to stuff the takedowns of Dustin Stults, who I don't think is the best wrestler. On paper, Sorano has a 30% takedown defense, but that's really skewed from the Nick Maximov fight. Maximov took this guy down like 10 times. I don't think Stults is anywhere near the level of wrestler of a Nick Maximov. So, yeah, I think Sorano dictates where this fight takes place, and that should be on the feet. And then on the feet, I just think he has a big advantage. He has a ton of power. Dustin Stults is very hittable. Sorano throws with a lot of bad intentions on the feet, and I kind of see Sorano just knocking him out early. Should be an easy fight. But if this gets extended, it's not going to look that easy. So, I don't know. It's a fight that kind of sketches me out, but I'm going to say Sorano catches him early. If it does get extended, it might get sketchy, but I think Sorano's the better fighter here. I can't trust Dustin Stults to win this fight. Can't trust him to get takedowns. Can't trust him to be the better striker. So I like Sorano here. Sorano, first round knockout. Next, we got Shawn Brady going against Kelvin Gastelum. We got Shawn Brady, 31 years old, 5'10", with a 72-inch reach, 15-1 and 4-1 in his last 5 fights. Kelvin Gastelum, 32 years old, 5'9", with a 71.5-inch reach, 18-8 and 2-3 in his last 5 fights. We have Shawn Brady opening up as a -120 favorite, currently -140. Gastelum opening up +100, currently +120. This is going to be Kelvin Gastelum's first fight at welterweight since 2016. It's been a long time since we've seen Kelvin Gastelum at welterweight. Really looking forward to seeing him on the scales. He does look to be in really good shape. He's training, I believe, at Fight Ready, which is good to see. Shawn Brady is a guy that is 15-1, was 15-0, obviously, prior to the Belal Muhammad fight. And yeah, Shawn Brady was on top of the world. I mean, this guy had a ton of hype, but after that Muhammad fight, it looks like a lot of the hype died down. A lot of people really low on Shawn Brady at this point, and I don't necessarily agree with that. You know, Shawn Brady lost to Belal Muhammad, who's a very, very good fighter. So, you know, Shawn Brady's going to be looking to get back on track here against Kelvin Gastelum, which this would be a good win. This would be a really good win against Kelvin Gastelum. This is a tough fight to call for me because on the feet, I think you got to favor Kelvin Gastelum, but I definitely think Shawn Brady can hold his own. I just think it really comes down to whether or not Kelvin Gastelum can stuff takedowns here. Shawn Brady can wrestle really good, but Shawn Brady's control is magnificent. I mean, if Shawn Brady gets you down, you're staying there more often than not. So Kelvin can't really afford to get taken down here, and there's not a ton of footage out there of Kelvin Gastelum and guys taking him down or trying to, at least recently. There's been a lot of fights like in the past, and I'm talking like in the past, where guys are taking him down a lot. Like Chris Weidman took him down 7 times back in 2017, but that was Chris Weidman back in 2017, right? So you can't look into that too much. Neil Magny took him down 6 times in 2015, but again, that was back in 2015. And then Robert Whittaker took him down 4 times. That was probably the most recent one, and that was back in 2021. So other than that, he's fighting a lot of strikers, but his takedown defense is definitely going to be tested here against Shawn Brady. How I see this fight playing out is like I said, I think on the feet I do favor Kelvin Gastelum, but I think Shawn Brady is not going to be too far behind him. And I think Shawn Brady can and will go for takedowns, and I think he will get some takedowns here. And I think he only needs a couple here to potentially control enough minutes to win some of these rounds. And I think it's a close fight. I think there's a couple fights on this card that are just like really, really close, and this is one of them. But I'm going to take Shawn Brady to get back on track here. I think this is a good fight to do it, and I think it'll be a great win. Give me Shawn Brady to win this fight by decision. I think it's going to be close. Just like that close Selecki fight. I kind of see it being like the same here, like damage versus control type situation. But I kind of have a lot more faith in Shawn Brady in terms of being able to get takedowns, being able to win those first 2 rounds. Third round might be a little bit iffy, but I think he can win those first 2 rounds. I think his wrestling's really good, his control's really good, and I think he can take down and control Gastelum for at least 2 of the 3 rounds and win a decision here. But yeah, close fight regardless, and I wouldn't be laying any money on either side here. Moving on, we got Rob Font going against Davidson Figueiredo. We got Rob Font. He is 36 years old, 5'8", with a 71.5-inch reach. We got him 20-7, and then 2-3 in his last 5 fights. Davidson Figueiredo, 35 years old, 5'5", with a 68-inch reach, 21-3-1, and 2-2-1 in his last 5 fights. Rob Font is the favorite, opening up -170, currently -140. Davidson Figueiredo opened up +145, currently +120. Very interesting fight here. Davidson Figueiredo fighting somebody not named Brandon Moreno for the first time since like 2020, 21. I mean, it's been like 4 or 5 fights in a row with 4 fights in a row with Brandon Moreno. The last time he fought somebody not named Brandon Moreno was, I think it was against Alex Perez with that guillotine choke that lasted about a minute, and that was back in 2020. So you have 4 fights in a row with Brandon Moreno where he had that draw in the first fight, got subbed in the second fight, won a decision in the third fight, and then lost with that the doctor stoppage in the 4th fight there. So yeah, it's a kind of a breath of fresh air to see Figueiredo fighting somebody else. But yeah, he's coming up a weight class here, which I think is the smart move at this point. Figueiredo cuts a ton of weight to get down to flyweight. I think the weight cut, especially at 35 years old, is getting a little bit too much for him. Moving up to bantamweight makes sense, but he's taking on a big bantamweight here in Rob Font. This is one of those fights where, I don't know, I feel like I can make a case for both sides, but with Figueiredo, I like the fact that he's training at Fight Ready. I feel like if he comes in here with the right game plan, he can win this fight. And in my opinion, the best game plan for Figueiredo is going to be to wrestle. This is not a 5-round fight. He's had 4 5-round fights in a row. I think even like the Perez fight with Figueiredo was scheduled for 5 rounds. Yeah, so yeah, it was. The Perez fight was scheduled for 5 rounds. He had the 2 Benavidez fights. Those were scheduled for 5 rounds. And the last time he fought a 3-round fight was, I think, against Tim Elliott back in 2019. So now he has a 3-round fight here for the first time in years. You would think he has the courage to go out there and have the best game plan, which would be to wrestle. It would be to wrestle here. Rob Font's takedown defense is not good. Rob Font's takedown defense on paper is 46%, which is atrocious. His get-up game is terrible. I mean, and I know it was Corey Sandhagen, but my gosh, I mean, Rob Font made 0 effort to even think about trying to get up against Corey Sandhagen. He got taken down and was controlled for over 20 minutes in that fight. It just made no sense. So, in theory, Figgy could go out there, get takedowns, and win some minutes on the mat. I'm not saying he's going to go out there and wrestle for 15 minutes, but mixing in a couple takedowns would be very wise here, and that's something he does. He does mix in some takedowns, but we've really never seen a fight where Figgy has went out there and put on a singlet and wrestled for 15 minutes. I'm not expecting that, but shooting a takedown here or there would make some sense. On the feet, you have to favor Font's minute-winning ability. Font's going to be the guy that's landing much more volume. Font has some of the best volume in the division. Even after the Corey Sandhagen stinker, he still averages almost 6 significant strikes per minute. Figueiredo is like 3. So, yeah, in terms of volume, Font's going to be out-voluming Figgy, but we see in a lot of these Font fights as of recent, Font's landing more volume, but he's getting rocked, he's wobbling, he's doing the chicken dance across the cage and losing some of these decisions. He's getting knocked down. Font's never been knocked out, but my gosh, he's been knocked down a lot lately, and Figgy does have power, and if this power does translate up a weight class, I think Font's in some trouble here. So I just feel like, Font probably should be the favorite. I mean, Font's going to be the bigger guy. He's going to be the minute winner. But I just feel like Figgy has passed the victory here, whether that is going out there and wrestling with a great game plan, or whether it's getting out volume but landing the big shots that change the trajectory of the fight or sway the judges one way or another, with those big shots, those big moments, whereas Font is going to be more of a volume guy, not a ton of power, and he's not knocking down Figgy. So I'm going to take Figgy here as a dog. It's hard to have a ton of confidence in it, but I feel like he has some paths here. I'm going to say he wins this fight by decision. Could potentially see like a sub, could potentially even see him being the first one to knock out Font, but Font gets hurt a lot, but his recoverability is really good. So I can see Figgy like dropping him or wobbling him or knocking him down, whatever, and Font surviving. But yeah, if he gets knocked down, I mean, that's, the round goes to Figgy right there. So I'm going to take Figgy to win this fight by decision. Another close fight on this card, but a fight that I'm really looking forward to here. Moving on to the co-main event, we got Jaylen Turner going against Bobby Green. Jaylen Turner stepping in on short notice here for Dan Hooker. We'll start with Jaylen Turner. He's 28 years old, 6'3", with a 75.5-inch reach, 13-7, and 3-2 in his last 5 fights. Bobby Green, 37 years old, 5'10", with a 71-inch reach, 31, 14-1, and 2-2 and 1 no contest in his last 5 fights. We'll take a look at the odds here. We have Jaylen Turner opened up -190, currently -250. Bobby Green opened up +165, currently +210. So what really, kind of baffles me is, this fight is, as of now, not a catchweight, which is wild to me because Jaylen Turner, obviously, is 6'3" at lightweight. We do not see a ton of 6'3" lightweights. One that does come to mind, though, is Joe Alvarez, who's missed weight like 50 times. And Jaylen Turner's taken this fight on very short notice, so he's gonna have to cut down to 155. If it's at 155, I'm not even sure he makes weight. Like, he missed weight in his last fight against Dan Hooker. He showed up and he weighed in at 158 in his last fight. So we got to see Jaylen Turner on the scales. I mean, this is a very, very. I think this fight just got announced a couple days ago, and now he's going to weigh in. We'll have to see it, but I'm kind of have a feeling that they might push this to a catchweight, and if not, I kind of have a feeling he may miss weight. We'll see. He did last time. So, but yeah, I mean, if Jaylen Turner shows up, he does make weight, or if this is a catchweight, he makes that catchweight, right? And if he's, semi-prepared for this fight, I mean, I think it's a really winnable fight for him, but, the weight cut concerns me. The cardio on short notice kind of concerns me. And, but I just think, Jaylen Turner, he's so dangerous. He's going to have a 5-inch height advantage. He's going to have a 4.5-inch reach advantage. And Jaylen Turner's a guy that's just dangerous wherever the fight goes. On the feet, Jaylen Turner is going to just look like a whole weight class bigger than Bobby Green, and Bobby Green has this like hands down style as of late, and it's caught him in some of these spots, like against Jared Gordon. Jared Gordon was landing some shots on Bobby Green, landing some shots clean on Bobby Green, and that's Jared Gordon, a guy that has, up until his Mark Madsen fight, had 0 knockouts. And then against Drew Dober, Green was having success, but he had that hands down style, and eventually Dober caught him and knocked him out. And I kind of see the same thing happening here. I don't know if you can rely on that hands down style against a guy like Jaylen Turner, because if he does hit you clean, he's gonna make you pay. So, but yeah, it's a weird fight. It's a weird fight with the whole short notice thing, but it's a fight that I think if Jaylen Turner is prepared, he should go out there and win. I think this is a step down for Jaylen Turner. He's fought some really good guys as of late. He fought Mateusz Gamrot, Dan Hooker, some pretty good guys as of late. So yeah, give me Jaylen Turner here on short notice to get an early finish. But if this fight does get extended, I think it's going to be pretty interesting. All right, next we got the main event. We got Arman Tsarukyan going against Beneil Dariush. We got Tsarukyan, 27 years old, 5'7", with a 72.5-inch reach, 20-3 and 4-1 in his last 5 fights. Beneil Dariush, he's 34 years old, 5'10", with a 72-inch reach, 22-5 and 1 in his last 5 fights. We got Tsarukyan opening up -175, currently -265. Dariush opening up +150, currently +225. And yeah, I feel like this is a fight where, skill for skill, I feel like these guys are pretty similar. I feel like Beneil Dariush is really underrated. I think his striking is very underrated. I think his wrestling is underrated. And then he also has that BJJ black belt, an incredible grappler. I think we all know that. But yeah, I think his wrestling is really good, his striking is really good, and obviously has that grappling as well. Tsarukyan, though, is younger. He's much younger, 7 years younger. I think he's the guy that is more likely to make improvements. Dariush, I know he fought Charles Oliveira in his last fight, but he kind of looked off that night. Kind of looked a little bit off, got knocked out by Charles Oliveira, which, again, it's not a terrible loss whatsoever, but it's looked a little bit off to me. But yeah, so Tsarukyan's going to be younger. I think that's huge. The guy more likely to make improvements, I think that's huge. I think it's going to be huge that, Tsarukyan's been 5 rounds before, whereas Dariush, this is going to be his first 5-round fight in the UFC. Tsarukyan looked solid against Gamrot in 5 rounds. A lot of people thought that Tsarukyan even beat Gamrot, in that 5-round fight, dropped Gamrot at one point. So yeah, I think the cardio is in favor of Tsarukyan, the youth in favor of Tsarukyan, and then also, and I think this is the key for me, is the durability. I think is heavily in favor of Arman Tsarukyan. Beneil Dariush, 5 losses. I believe all 5 of those losses come inside the distance. When Dariush is losing, it is by finish. Charles Oliveira finished him by knockout. Alexander Hernandez finished him by knockout. Edson Barbosa finished him by knockout. Even Michael Chiesa, finished him by submission. He's been finished 5 times in the UFC. All 5 of them coming inside the distance. And that's a concern here. Like, Arman Tsarukyan's a guy that's just relentless. He's going to, set a pace that a lot of guys really can't keep up with. And I kind of have a feeling that Dariush is not going to be able to keep up with this pace for 25 minutes. If this fight was 3 rounds, I think Dariush should be very, very live here. But the fact that it is 5 rounds, I kind of trust Arman Tsarukyan a lot more in those later rounds. I trust his cardio more. I trust his durability more. And I think at some point, Arman Tsarukyan might land a big shot here. And he has really good ground and pound as well. So I could see him kind of breaking down Dariush as the fight goes on, and eventually either landing a big shot or getting him out of there via TKO. So I like Tsarukyan here. I think it's going to be very, very competitive early, but I think he's going to kind of take over more and more as the fight goes on. And I see Tsarukyan going out there and getting a 3rd-round TKO in this one. There you guys have it. Those are the predictions for UFC Austin. Thank you so much for watching. Feels good to be back. We have this card and then 2 more cards looking to end 2023 strong. Again, be sure to check out Prize Picks if you guys have not already. I'll be putting out a Prize Picks video later in the week. Use that promo code DFSBTN. Get yourself a 100% deposit match up to $100. And then also check out dfsbythenumbers.com. Just almost done with the full card best bet article. Just need to edit it and get the odds on there for the bets and stuff. And then other than that, no bets yet, but I'm going to be looking at some bets. I'm looking at some underdog bets and some props as always. So yeah, guys, best of luck. We'll talk to you soon and enjoy UFC Austin. See you guys later.